a lot of
Exactly. Yeah.
churches are starting to do that. I'll tell you. By the way, folks, this is Brother Tim and Frady. You're listening to Picking Up the Habit here on the Lighthouse Radio Network. Our number 757-488-5299, 757-488-5299.
You can also check us on YouTube and Facebook. Just look up Picking Up the Habit. You'll see our beautiful faces live, and you can even comment there and ask questions.
Um, Advent is 40 days preparation before Christmas. That's what it is. It's the 40 days. It's the journey of what do you
If it's the first week of Advent, how's it 40 days?
40 days it is. But
I
it
believe you.
okay.
But I'm just doing the math.
But no, the math's a little odd for Advent. Anyway, there's 4 weeks. And they burn candles.
Yeah, it's
Purple for 3 and pink for 1.
Yep.
Hope, love, joy, and peace, I believe,
You are correct.
are the 4 seasons. And I remember I was at another church's Bible study for a year because they were doing a year-long Bible study that I was kind of curious, called Randy Frazie's, and it was Randy Frazee had something to do with he reordered the story. And what Randy Frazee did, this things like this just always amaze me. He took the Bible and he restructured the Bible so it was a chronological story from creation to resurrection. Not Christ's resurrection, the second coming, rapture. And he only used NIV translation, but he reorganized everything. So, for example, Acts was split apart left and right, and the letters of Paul were put into the story of Acts. So when he was in jail, then they would deal with the letters that while he wrote while he was in that jail. And it was a reading of the Bible in a year. And for those pastors who are listening, it's a great way of introducing your congregation to the overarching story of the Bible. Too many times, a lot of churches spend months on topics or issues. And the challenge is that the new Christians in your church lose out on the milk of the word. They don't understand the difference between law versus grace. They don't understand how the Old Testament foretold of Jesus as the Messiah. They don't understand where the conflict is between the Jewish church and the Christian church. If the Bible pointed towards Jesus, why didn't the Jews recognize Jesus as the Messiah? Why did some? Why didn't others? They definitely don't understand the religious significance of what's going on in Israel now. And so a lot is to be said about understanding the story of the Bible. And so Randy Frazee rewrote it. He didn't rewrite it, reorganized it. And on your Wednesday nights, he would have a video and he would go through what you're going to cover in that section. And then you would read it all as in your home groups or at home. And then on Sunday, that was what the preaching was about. So there was a theme set for every week. And this went on for an entire year. And I enjoyed it. Now, my background, I've read through the Bible cover to cover.
More times than I count.
Yeah, more times than I can count. It always makes me laugh when somebody says, "Have you ever read the entire Bible?"
someone looks at you and asks if you've ever read the
Oh,
entire
yeah.
what?
Yeah. More often than not.
See, for those who've never seen Brother Tim, who only heard his voice and never had the privilege of meeting him, he's a monk. He looks like a monk. I mean, like he looks like a monk. So for someone to look at Brother Tim in all his monk glory and go, "Have you read the whole Bible?" It's just
It shows the bias of the way they were raised towards other faith groups. But anyway, it was really good. But the only thing that got me was that as we're reading through it, all of a sudden it's Christmas. Oop, we got to wait next Sunday because next Sunday is Christmas. And I'm like,
gotta stop.
Out of the blue, Christmas is here. And I happen to come from a liturgical church, and we celebrate what's called the liturgical calendar. And I'll walk you through it. If you've got questions, our number is 757-488-5299, 757-488-5299. Last Sunday is the beginning of the Christian year.
This past Sunday?
This past Sunday. Okay. That starts the
Christian year. I've never heard that before.
Okay. And for 4 weeks, we're in Advent, which is the preparation time for Christmas.
That part I know, right?
Okay. How long is Christmas? Well, most churches is a day.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I know where you're at.
For us, it's 12.
Right.
Okay.
After Christmas.
Because Christmas isn't a day, it is a season. It encompasses more than just the birth of Christ. And you've got the coming of the Magi, okay? Epiphany. You've got the presentation at the temple. There are things that happen during the season of Christmas. Then after Christmas, we enter a period of ordinary time, which is the growing up of Christ. And then 40 days before Easter, which changes based upon the lunar calendar, putting it in time with the Jewish calendar. Those 40 days are Lent. That is preparing for the Passion the week prior to Easter Sunday. And after the resurrection, we enter the season of Easter, which is 60 days where we celebrate the resurrection. We read the stories in the Bible that have to do with Jesus's resurrection, his appearing, the road to Emmaus, Thomas, and then we celebrate the ascension of God, of Jesus into heaven. Then we celebrate Pentecost, and then we have another few Sundays here and there. And then in the meantime, we're dealing with what we call ordinary time, the life of Jesus throughout his life. Okay. So every year through the entire life of Christ, every year we follow one of the 3 gospels in the life of Christ. And when I say 3 gospels, I'm referring to Matthew, Mark, or Luke. John is covered every year.
Why is John covered every year?
Have you ever noticed that Matthew, Mark, and Luke read the same way?
Yeah. I mean, I get John's more of a personal love story.
Well, it's not only that, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, depending upon where your research shows, Mark was the first one written, and Matthew and Luke used Mark as a basis and then increased upon it, is the theory, okay?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I've gone over that
Okay.
in school, yeah.
So John has the tendency to spend a lot more time about the Passion Week, Palm Sunday through. So that's when we deal with John every year because of that.
Sense.
So every 3 years, we read through
the other 3.
right. And every Sunday, we read from the Old Testament, we read from Psalms, we read from the New Testament, and then we read from the Gospels. So there's 4 biblical readings that normally have to do with the same topic. So every 3 years, if you attend a liturgical church who follows the liturgical calendar, that could be Methodist, Lutheran, Presbyterian, Catholic, Roman, Greek, Anglican, Episcopal, any of those liturgical churches, if you go to church every year or every week for 3 years, you've heard the entire Bible once in your life. What?
No, here I'm.
You were gonna
No, I just that would be too slow for me.
too slow for you?
I try to go through the entire New Testament like once a month.
Well, no. If you go through that on your own, I'm just saying in church
Oh, that
on Sunday,
That makes sense.
you go through the entire Bible 3 times a year. If you do nothing else, you've got it every 3 years.
I like that.
And so every year, though, anyone that comes to church hears the story of the entire Bible. Okay?
I like that.
So when new Christians come in to a liturgical church, they hear this whole story of Christ. They hear creation all the way through the rapture, the end times, the final judgment. Some churches like to be thematic, and they'll be talking about giving for a month.
Right.
They'll talk about service for 2 or 3 months. And the challenge is that they don't, or better yet, they'll take a book of the Bible and they'll go through it verse by verse by verse. New Christians don't always understand where that book, where that letter comes into play in the overall story.
True story. But that's also where if you're a good church, I'm not calling any church out. You get those people in the Bible study, which would be better for.
You would hope, but lots of times Bible studies are picking up a book that the instructor is going to be walking through, which is on another book of the Bible or a theme, or could be marriage, could be baptism, could have been any of those things.
True.
Bible studies are normally consistent for a period, and then they'll go through. And so they're kind of sometimes, I think, needs to be like a beginner's 101 course to understand the whole story of the Bible.
And like most churches that I know of, they'll have like a what this church is about meeting you have to come to for new. But I like that. You got to join. You want to be a member of the church, you got to join what the Bible's about class.
Yeah.
Bible 101.
And many churches have that. In order to be a voting member of the church, you need to understand what the gospel's about and how there are different messages and how they blend together. By the way, folks, our number is 757-488-5299. 757-488-5299. And that's how, with us, you need to go through membership classes to become a member of our church.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I liked your idea where, but
that's part of the membership class.
Oh, like Bible 101?
Yeah.
See, I'm not calling my old churches out, but I haven't.
Well, no. That's okay. Every church has its own style.
I like that, though.
Okay. And so this week is the first week of Advent.
Yep.
Okay. And we are preparing for the birth of Christ. And the reason why these seasons, Advent and Lent, are so important to me is because it's that preparation. It's that anticipation for the birth of Christ, not for presents under the tree.
How dare you say that?
Okay. So adults are to be anticipating Christ's birth in our life. And what does that mean to us? So
I thought the Grinches all we're supposed to worry about for Christmas.
The Grinches were what?
The Grinch. It's the season of the Grinch, I thought.
Oh.
I'm being funny. Sorry, forgive me.
I don't.
You don't know the Grinch?
There's been a lot. I know who the Grinch is, and there's been a lot of videos that have crossed my feed that people think are hysterical, and I'm very upset that people would do that to their kids.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
where a Grinch
Yep.
person comes into the house
Yeah.
and takes things from under the
Yeah.
tree or takes the tree
And
and
throws it in the fireplace or something.
yeah, and the
Kids are-
kids are all freaking out. Mom and dad are just sitting there laughing as their kids are being tortured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so totally not a fan. I just have a problem with that. Anyway, our number is 757-488-5299. So you would light the first candle, and there's family activities that go around. Now, this week is also the week of Hanukkah. Hanukkah starts tomorrow night at 4:49, and it's the lighting of the first candle of the menorah, and it talks about the candles and the oil in the lamp in the temple and how the oil should have run out, but it did not run out, and it continued burning for, I believe it was 7 days.
Huh.
7, 8.
Right.
So it's worth researching because then you understand what's happening with Christianity. We understand, for example, communion. Why is communion an important thing? Because of what happened at Passover.
Right.
We learn about the festival, and believe it or not, Hanukkah was celebrated by Jesus. It's talked about in the Bible. Many people don't realize that. So we are in Advent, and I wish you all to have a happy season of preparation for Advent. Counting down if you want to. I can remember a number of years ago, not even 4 or 5. There was a Christian radio station who did the 12 days of Christmas on the 13th of Christmas.
Matt's not mathing.
Well, no, they thought they were counting down the 12 days to Christmas. They did not understand that the 12 days of Christmas meant 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th.
Well, I can tell you most.
Freddie,
Yeah.
Freddie. This was a Christian college radio station.
I'll guarantee if you go to a church and they ask you the 12 days of Christmas,
A church, maybe. This was a Christian institution of learning of national renown.
I got a feeling I know who you're talking about. I can tell you if you go to most churches and most Christians and ask them to tell you the 12 days of Christmas, outside of maybe,
I'm not worried about churches. I'm talking about professors. I'm talking about doctors of history.
I think they just have a difference of opinion.
It's not opinion, it's fact. It's historical fact.
I'll Google that while you tell the story.
Anyway, folks, I called the radio station and they realized that we were right. And within 3 days, they canceled the whole promotion because they were getting so many calls about it. The season of Christmas has been around for hundreds of years, centuries, and it's just misunderstood most recently. But on the heel of this, Frady was asked a question. Why is Christmas the season that churches give?
I've been dealing with that a lot lately.
Well, why don't you go into that?
It just, someone asked me the question because they know I do a lot of, I'm big on mission work, and the whole reason I'm sitting in this studio with Brother Tim is because of mission work with him and, stuff like that. And someone asked, why do Christians only give during the holidays? And it stuck on me, and I was like, that's a good question.
Do you think it's a true question?
I do. I think this person was being genuine. I think the person had an issue. They're like, why don't we help all year long?
See, but here's where my thing, I think that was a perception issue.
It might have been.
That this individual only saw.
That's possible.
The help that was going on.
That's possible.
Because maybe they were in need of help at one point and only saw it during Christmas, didn't see it at other times.
I think it was more they want to help, they want to do things, and they're wondering why they don't see And it could be a perception issue. It could be what.
Well,
their
no, I
bubble.
think it's a true issue. Look at all the commercials.
They
Toys
just
for Tots.
right. Why are we as Christian organizations? Jesus tells us to help the sick, blind, poor, yada, yada. No, I'm not trying to diminish, but
Yeah.
what I mean is we're supposed to go and help all the time, like every day. Every day we're supposed to go out and help the best of our ability. Of course, if we physically can, or we don't give money you don't have, or don't do something your body physically can't do, of course. But if we're able to just give our time, or give our money, or go out and talk, sit with people and stuff like that. Why are we only doing, like you said, Toys for Tots? Why are we only buying toys?
Well, see, this is the thing. I think it's a number of things. One, first of all, everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, most people think Christmas is for kids.
Of course.
Okay. You'd be surprised the number of requests that I get asking if we're giving out something for Christmas. And my response is always, no, we're open 50 weeks a year. If you need food for a Christmas dinner, I have plenty of food for you. But if you are looking for a turkey, if you're looking for a ham, I'm sorry, we don't do that. But I have plenty of food to help your family eat. Most of the time, I would say almost 99% of the time, those people never come up.
Right, of course.
Okay. Now we are reaching the point where we have people that come in. This happens all the time with us. Somebody will do a flyer to inform our clients something is going on. We have an overabundance of hot dogs.
And they show up in force.
And they will go ahead, and because they think they are helping people by spreading the news,
they'll tell I see that.
They'll put it all over Facebook. And then we will be swarmed with people who show up. And when we ask, what brings you here today? Well, what do you mean? Was there a fire? Did you have an accident?
Facebook.
Are bills too big for you? What's the emergency that brought you here? Oh, well, I just heard you were giving away food. Okay, but that's really for those who are in need. Are you in need? And if a person comes to the food pantry and says, I'm in need, we give them food. We don't argue with them.
Of course not.
But most of these people will say, well, you're giving away free food. But folks, we're not giving away free food. We're giving food to you for free, but somebody paid for it somewhere.
True story.
Either there was a food drive where people gave food that they bought, or it's food that the stores bought to sell, or somewhere along the line, somebody paid. And when you're dealing with other food establishments that have businesses that pay their staff to be there, somebody's donating money so that these people are being paid to take care of you. I mean, our pantry is 100% volunteer, period. Nobody gets paid. And I refuse to pay anyone.
He ain't lying. I tried.
Okay. And it's because the moment I start paying people, I'm no longer a ministry. I'm now a business. And my first job as the director is to make sure I have enough money to meet the payroll. Whereas now as a ministry, my first job is to feed the hungry.
You are correct. But like part of my question, I saw a sign today. I had a meeting somewhere and they're doing a coat drive. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy they're doing this coat drive, right?
Sure.
But I've been to this building multiple times.
Okay.
I have never seen. So it kind of reaffirms the question I was asked. I have never seen this building ever do a drive for anything all year long until now. Now they're trying to do a coat drive. And it's cold. I get it. It's winter's coming and they're trying to. But my question is it only because it's the holidays and it's like, hey, look at us. We're doing something nice. and-
No, I think it is because it coincides with the season.
so why
I
aren't
mean,
it's cold in
hang on.
February.
But you already raised your coat, so people have them. Okay.
Yeah,
You
okay.
don't do anything in June because the only thing people need in June would be an air conditioner. And there are places that do. Vepco.
True. There
Okay.
are some spots.
So,
but
but there isn't much that an average person can give to help with the heat. Maybe a fan.
I don't mean just the heat, but like I mean like but just like I've never seen this building. Like they don't do food drives. I've never
Right.
seen a food drive. I've never seen I've never seen anything in this building ever
So
to advertise. We're trying to help
what
anybody.
is the mission of that business
no,
in there?
All I saw was we're raising coats to give to those who are
Okay, see
that's all
that
I-
might have been the one thing. See, I happen to believe that. So the secret behind Five Loaves Food Pantry is that it's God's pantry,
of course.
and everybody will say, "Well, every pantry's God's." No, we truly are. We're staffed by 14 different denominations, churches of varying types. And a lot of people say, how do you do that? Well, because we're not worried about doctrine. We're worried about living the gospel. Okay? We're worried about feeding the hungry, which is the gospel. That's why we do that, because we're not proselyting. Somebody's on the phone.
It is one of our favorites. It is Praetorian.
Hey, Praetorian, just so you know, we only got 4 minutes, but go ahead.
No problem. I'm just going to ask a quick question.
Sure.
When does ministry start and stop?
For me, ministry starts the moment you start doing something, and depending upon how business is done, that's when it changes into a business.
No. Not in regards to that. I
Okay.
know we as preachers, or we'll say the church. Now, speaking of the church, because I mean, what you do for Five Loaves is a ministry. It's not a business.
No, correct.
So my question is, granted, people might want to start doing things around here for charity sake and this, that, and the third. But I'm speaking of ministry. Ministry is 24/7, 365.
Right. It should be.
It's not something you can turn off or turn on.
Correct. A true Christian should be doing ministry 24/7, 365. It's when you drive somebody stranded on the highway and you pull your car over to help them. It's when you're walking into a grocery store and you see somebody who's handicapped and you go to open the door to help them in, or you help somebody get something off of a shelf. That's all ministry. That's serving,
Right.
that, and that's what we're called to do. We're told to, what are the 2 greatest commandments? Love the Lord your God with all thy heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. We as Christians should be loving our neighbor 24/7, 365, not just on Sundays, not during Christmas or whatever. Is that where you're
Correct.
going?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, just because you're doing a charitable event does not mean you're involved in ministry.
No.
Just because you do something Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, that's a charitable event. You're looking to get accolades. But in regards to ministry, for like what you do, that's 365, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it doesn't stop. It becomes a lifestyle.
Yes.
That's all I had.
All right. Thanks, Praetorian.
Hey, while we have it,
Yes,
Victor,
sir.
real quick question to answer my original question. Do you think, I know you're a pastor and you do lots of wonderful things. Do you see it where there are times where, as a church as a whole, I'm not calling out individuals, but maybe as a church as a whole, we only really pay attention sometimes to doing, like you said, ministry and helping people during the holidays? Or do you think it's
Some churches do. Some churches go above and beyond and exceed the expectation, regardless of time frame, regardless of the season. It doesn't make a difference to them
amen?
whether it's Easter, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, it doesn't matter. They're constantly going, doing, giving because of what the Bible said, where Jesus said, if you clothe the naked, you did it unto me. If you fed the hungry, you did it unto me. If you provided someone shelter, you did it unto me. And they're not looking to be sort of men and given accolades. They're doing it because it's within their heart, because that's what Jesus would have done.
Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate the call.
Yes, sir.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, everybody, it's that time. But before we go, I want to say a big shout out to Chuck and Chase Worley. By the way, Chuck Worley is going to be on WNIS at 9 o'clock on Saturday. I know that we're promoting another radio station.
We've talked about that. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, but we got to do it, folks, because Chuck's there. So if you guys have got a question for him, listen to WNIS 790 AM. But for right now, give him a call at 757-356-4117. That's 356-4117. I know that they are currently running some specials. I didn't get them all, but look them up. Give them a call, 757-356-4117. In fact, I meant to ask a certain person how their service was. But anyway, give them a call. You're listening to Brother Tim and Frady here on Picking Up the Habit, Lighthouse Radio Network, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Lighthouse, W245CK Suffolk, W261DI Norfolk, and WPMH Newport News.
Listen to The Lamppost, right here on The Lighthouse, a ministry of the Colonial Heights Church of Christ in Norfolk. We will light your way to the Lord, helping seekers become disciples and growing strong believers for His service. The Lamppost, right here on The Lighthouse. With God's help, we will light your way home to Him.
Ferocious Styles wants to remind pet owners of the importance of spaying and neutering. Shelters overflow with unwanted pets. Spaying and neutering helps prevent this and has many health benefits too. This reminder was a courtesy of Ferocious Styles in Yorktown. They're a locally owned cat grooming and boarding salon and resort, and they further remind us to check under your car hood for cats trying to keep warm this winter. Call 757-508-2277 or click on ferociousstyles.com.
Mold, trash, rodents, snakeskin, even deceased animals. No, this isn't a Halloween shopping list. It's what might be under your house, in your crawl space. Schedule a free crawl space inspection with the Crawl Space Company and find out what's in your crawl space. Call 757-394-3494 to schedule your free inspection or visit thecrawlspacecompany.net. So, do you know what's in your crawl space?
Actual client review of Hartman Dentistry.
I just want to say that I just went to Dr. Hartman, and she is absolutely wonderful.
What did you think when you walked in? Did it just feel like it was a relaxing place to be?
Yes, it's very nice, very clean, very bright. You're not sitting in a room with not just four walls. The room that I was in, you could see outside.
Did you have a wait before you walked in?
I was there maybe 15 minutes before I got into the office, and so I got into my chair, and then maybe another 30 minutes while the technician, did X-rays and all.
And so, are you going to go back and get your teeth fixed the way she says?
I'm going to try. I am going to try because I really trust her. And the only reason I went is because you thought so highly of her.
I got to tell you, I'm in love.
Give Hartman Dentistry a call at 757-873-3407.
Hello, everybody. This is Brother Tim. I'm sitting here with my main man, Frady.
What's up?
We are talking about a variety of things. We're talking about ministry. Well,
First off, Thomas, I know you're probably listening. Give us a call back. Sorry, I missed your call during the break. Give us a call back.
while we were talking, Vertorian brought up, when is ministry? And one of the things that I always hear, happens to do with pastors and paying pastors. And it was never ever about money to begin with. It was about supporting your pastor and helping them to live because they helped you to live. Have we got a call?
We had the gentleman you want to ask a question to again.
Oh, hey, Vortorian, what's there?
Hey, brother. So I heard you once you hung up. You went to the break. So let me do a quick promo for one of your sponsors.
Okay, who would you like to?
Let me do a quick promo for one of your sponsors. And this is going to be at Worley's Home Services. I had Mike, who is, he came by and he basically went in the crawl space, looked at a whole bunch of great stuff, and gave me a great estimate on what we needed to do in our home to basically heat up the downstairs. Last year, when they got about 15 degrees, my pipes froze. So it was also a matter of insulating the hot and cold water pipes so they don't freeze this year. And so much other stuff was recommended, and we're actually going to get it done. The great thing was Mike spent a lot of time at the house because he's a Christian brother, and we just sat there sharing the gospel with one another. We talked about Chase. We talked about Chase's son, how, big an influence they are in the community and the different things they do. So anyone who's listening or anything of that nature, before you call anyone else, definitely call them out to take a look at not just your HVAC, but also your electric, as well as your plumbing and any and everything else that can be done.
So, Vortorian,
wonderful experience.
Did Mike take the time to explain to you why he was making the suggestions he was making in his estimate?
Yes, he went through all that there. In fact, Mike had been in the business years ago. When Chuck started his own business up, he told me his story. He wanted to bring him on but couldn't, and eventually he was able to get him to come on to do some work for him and assist him with the growth of Worley's Home Services. So he explained everything in detail. I had my wife there as well, so it wasn't just that he was explaining things to me that I would understand, because normally just like, hey, baby, it sounds good, let's do it, done. She was like, well, why? He explained everything to her very thoroughly to the point where she was like, hey, let's get this done. And I've never heard my wife ever say, hey, let's just get this done. Like I said, one of the best experiences I've ever had. And it's because of you guys here at Picking Up the Habit that I actually gave them a call.
Well, thank you, Vortorian. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, sir. Y'all have a great one again.
Now you gotta call us after.
Well, they'll be here. They'll be at my house, which is amazing. We had the estimate and everything done the other day. They're going to be at the house on Friday.
Oh,
just that quick of a turnaround.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, call us next week and let us know how they did.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, folks. That's Worley's Home Services. We've had people on the radio station use them before. Their number is 757-356-4117. That's 356-4117.
It's one thing I can tell you about the Worley Home Services and Chuck and Chase.
What?
They do ministry work all year long.
Oh, they do.
All
year long. They are a Christian company. And what does that mean, folks? Man, if you want to sit and pray with any of them before you get your work done, do it.
They will do it.
I mean, that's just the way they are. I mean, that's found that way.
They gave you a truck.
Yeah. Worley's Home Services have given us a permanent loan of a box truck that we are using to pick up food every day. Without it, we'd be having a difficult time. Worley's is a major supporter of Five Loaves and Livingstone Monastery. They are a business that does ministry. Now, we were talking about pastors. It used to be and this was established in the Exodus,
Right.
that it was the job of the people to support their religious leaders because
Correct.
the religious leaders worked. They worked. They didn't just sit behind a desk working on a sermon. Okay. I can't begin to tell you the number of times that I have received a call from somebody from the Five Loaves family asking me to go to the hospital to take care of a relative. And when I get there, the first question I ask is, do they have a faith background? Do they go to church somewhere? And the response is yes. Well, as a pastor, I would want the same courtesy. Have you called their pastor?
Yes.
Yes. And they said they could come in on Monday. That's how some churches work.
I feel double sided for that. I get what you're saying. I know where you're going. Well, at least I don't completely. I feel I know where you're going with this. Yes, but also there are lots of. It depends. I'm not saying they shouldn't be there. Definitely depending on the situation. All the pastors all persons I personally know, would be there.
Well,
and-
no, there's even big churches out there, and I'm not picking on mega churches, but when my sister died,
you had a pastor didn't even know. I remember that story.
but
yeah.
they did have a pastor
Who
that
showed
was allotted to do that portion
Right.
of ministry. This gentleman, all he did
was go to the church.
was go to the hospital and go to funerals. Now, he didn't know any of the people in the church, but at least he was
Was
there
there.
from the church.
On the flip side, depending on the size of the church, these all you have is a senior pastor, is the pastor. They got families, they got hundreds.
Well, yeah, but then you've got elders.
that's my next right. If the pastor cannot be there, I would say a member of the eldership should try to
Right.
make it to go there, especially depending on the situation. If
But
you have-
I can tell you during COVID, I know many people that called us up to visit families who were isolated, which we did by Zoom for safety reasons. And when I said, well, wait a second, I thought you were going to such and such. Yeah, they haven't reached out to us at all to see how my dad's doing. And I would be like, well, have you called? Oh, yeah, we've called and we've left messages, but nobody's checked up. Although we did get in the mail the other day, they wanted to know if we were going to renew our tithing for the year.
I remember you telling me that story.
But see, that's the thing. You know,
And unfortunately, you have churches that are like Victorian said, you have ministries. You have like when I asked him a question, you have churches and organizations and religious leaders who do things all year long just because that's who they are, and then you have some churches that are doing it in August with the Look at Me.
757 488 5299 757 488 5299. My church, and I love my church, but this is one thing I do not like about my church. They're all about church planting. They're all about increasing attendance and getting your average Sunday attendance up. Why?
Isn't the Great Commission is we're supposed to go out and reach everyone and bring them to church?
Yeah, but what did you just say we get judged by?
Our actions?
Feeding, clothing.
Well, yes, of course.
Thirsty.
but
Okay, but you're not going to stand before God, and God's not going to say to your pastor, I understand that you guys increased your average Sunday attendance by whatever, and you had to develop 3 more new churches. God's not going to judge on that.
That I agree with, but no, totally agree. Totally agree.
Okay.
I agree with you on that, but I will defend it depending on and like if you're opening a church up the road, that's different because you can just come to the building. If you're opening a church in an area where they need a church,
I'm not arguing opening up a church,
right?
not in the least. But that should not be the quote unquote ministry.
I mean, I can agree with that. I guess.
Okay.
Right.
And
sure.
that's what we have run into.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. The thing that really gets me humorous here, and not only I, but a lot of people, a lot of well-known names have all started to say the same thing. But I have said Satan's biggest victory was the Reformation.
Yeah.
Because of the Reformation, we have created an atmosphere where if we don't like what is happening within the organization we are with, we'll just start our own.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's happening a lot.
Okay. Happen a lot. I mean, you just, all you need to do is apply to the IRS and get a list of all the churches. It's exponentially increasing every year.
I can argue that the fact that we have multiple denominations is for that reason.
As a result of the Reformation.
Right. No, I agree with that's what I'm saying. Right,
Prior to the 1600s, we only had one church.
The Catholic Church.
Not Roman, not
Right.
Greek,
Right.
not Russian, but the
Catholic.
universal. Now, people, I know that when you hear the Catholic Church and the way people are saying it, they say it with disdain. Catholic is a Greek word that means the worldwide universal church. That's what it means. I tell the story, maybe I haven't told it on air. When Jesus was around, how many churches were there?
One? I mean, we talk about temples, or are we talking about just as an organization?
Religion, when you lived in Rome, who did you worship?
I mean, you have multiple gods, but I wouldn't call it religion.
Which ones?
I'm wrong person to ask.
Rome.
Oh, of course.
Roman
right.
gods.
Yeah, Roman.
If you were in Greece, which gods did you
Greek
worship?
gods, right. Greek gods, right.
If you were in Egypt?
Egyptian gods, right.
Okay. Religion was very regional. It was in the region you lived in.
That makes sense.
If you moved from one region to another, which was very, very rare, you might adopt the new region gods that you went to. Okay? It was only the Jews who took their religion with them.
Correct.
Okay? When Jesus lived,
he was a Jew.
He was a Jew. And he was in Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Judea, all that area that's in battle right now. After Jesus died, within 72 years, there were Christian churches in every port and city of the known world. It was a worldwide church.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is why it was called Catholic. It was the Catholic Church, the worldwide church. There was no other. Okay? You had Jews and you had Catholics. Shortly after you had Jews and you had Christians. Catholics, they were synonymous. They were one and the same. Now, somebody's going to call up and say the Anabaptists. Well, the Anabaptists weren't there in the first couple of centuries. Okay? And here's the other thing. And I'm not pro-Roman, okay? I am pro-Christian. But when the Reformation happened, we then set the standard that if you didn't like what was happening, you could always start your own. Now, here becomes my question. What's the difference between Church A that's located on this street and Church B that's 10 miles away?
You would pray nothing?
And if they're nothing, why aren't they working together?
I understand what you're saying. I do agree with that part. That's the one negative.
And that's the thing.
But you're hoping that Church A and Church B, while maybe different, are ultimately teaching the Bible.
Yes.
That's what you hope.
757-488-5299. But Freddie, here becomes my concern. And I have this big concern within my faith group right now. What happens almost every 3 years in our area?
The military changes.
Exactly.
Whole new group of people.
They transfer all the time.
Right.
Churches in our area, it's very, very hard for them to grow because just about the time they get one group, they leave, and then another group comes in just about the time. Okay.
Especially on the south side.
And here becomes the other thing, folks. we end up with people leaving our churches in 3 years that have nothing to do with the military. What it has to do with, the people in the church get to know the real you. And then because they know, they up and leave and go to another church, and they restart these relationships again. Very, very rarely do we now have churches where people have been going for 10, 20, 30 years. I can tell you there are plenty of churches, or used to be, where 2, 3 generations of family members go to that church. Now we allow people to leave to go wherever they want to because of something that happened. What was the comment, Frady? I heard all the way over
It
here.
was very loud. Yeah, he was at work. A caller called in and he made a comment about church. Hey, church, but he had a comment. He was
Right.
We couldn't put him on the air because he was at work and it was very loud.
Okay.
But basically, he kind of said the same thing I said. Is it shouldn't, but he means denomination and all. It shouldn't matter. Catholic, Baptist, non-denomination. None of that should matter. The only thing this caller called in that should matter is doctrine. It's kind
But
of
see,
like
here's the thing, though, and this is why Five Loaves is successful, because we don't deal with doctrine.
that is true.
I can't begin to tell you the number of people who I have come by who want to check out Five Loaves, and they say, or pastors, and they say to me, listen, we want to start a food pantry. Can you tell us what's the best practices? And the first question I ask is, for what reason? Well, what do you mean? Why are you going to start a food pantry?
Goes back to my question about holidays. But yeah,
And their response lots of times would be because, well, aren't we supposed to? Well, yeah, but why do you need to start one? Why not just help one in the area?
right.
Oh, no. We want to do it ourselves. And that's when we hit with what Vertorian was talking about. Pride.
Correct.
Okay. And I tell people, if you're doing this because you want to grow your church,
Wrong reason.
why?
Because it's, I mean, okay, adding people is great. Don't get me wrong, but if you're just you're only trying to help people to grow your numbers, most of the time they want people who have money. So you're not going to get. We've talked
And
about this
see,
before.
we're back to the finances.
Correct.
Again.
And I'm not calling out any particular. I don't know, but I'm just saying from experience, most of the churches who want to do it by themselves, it's a show. Look at what we're doing. Hopefully, we get members who can help support this
But
organization.
Frady, you are arguing against what you just said 10 minutes ago about
how
going
am
out into the world and spreading the gospel.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No,
Yes, you are.
but
Because those people, you just gave it the purpose. They weren't doing it to spread the gospel. They were doing it to increase their finances.
in those instances, in that instance where church planting is yes, there are finances involved, but the hope is when you plant a church in an area, it's to minister to regardless.
Don't you think there are enough churches everywhere in the United States that we just need to guide the people to the churches that already exist?
Unfortunately, like you said, pride gets in the way of that.
Exactly. That's my whole entire point.
Don't get me wrong. I would love for people to come to my church if they need to go to church. I'll tell people all day long, hey, I have a great church. My church is wonderful. I'm not bumping my church. I won't even give my church's name right now. So I'm not trying to have my church. But if people ask me about church, I will mention my church.
But what I'm trying to say,
I'll send them anywhere.
this,
Right? I'll send them anywhere. Just
we
so they
have
get fed.
got churches starting up all throughout the city, to the point now where the cities are talking about not giving out
I heard
tax exempt status.
I heard that. Yeah, I agree with that part. Like, just it's like come in and let's get the people to a church instead of having 100 churches with just 100 people or less. Let's have a church with 1,000 people in it.
And this
we're all
is
helping
why
together.
we haven't started a church at Five Loaves yet. Because when people come in, the first question I ask is, what's your faith background? And I try to match them up with the church in the area.
Correct.
Okay. Same thing with ministry. Why do you need to build a food pantry? Well, if there's no food pantry within 5 miles, you need one. I'll agree right off the bat. 5 miles or more.
But isn't it like
You-
take the peninsula, it's like 100 food pantries?
We used to have 264. We're down to 120. But Frady, what you have to keep in mind is, can they walk to it?
I mean, that's true.
That's why I say 5 miles. If you don't have one within 5 miles, there's problems there. Okay. But then again, do we need them? I mean, we just had a new pantry, and I won't name it, that's all over the paper because they are now a free grocery store. Well, Five Loaves has been doing that for 7 years.
I know who you're talking about. The caveat is I don't think people understand. Like, and this is, I'm not bumping you because I love you and I think people, but people don't understand. They got to make an appointment. They go once a month for 15 minutes. That's it.
Yeah, and they aren't handling emergency clients
Correct.
either. We do. They send them to us.
Not everything shiny is good.
Yes. But anyway, folks, the question, the whole thing we're talking about here is Advent, the season of preparation. Are you who are listening, doing things during this season before Christmas that are going to be building Christian habits of giving, of service? I mean, that's what Christmas is about. Have you ever really pondered, truly sat down and held one of your kids and wondered what it would be like to give them up to be crucified?
I'm not that good of a Christian.
That's what we're talking about this year. That's what we talk about every year. God sent his son to be born a child. When Jesus understood the fullness of what he was going to go through, I don't know. But I know he knew what it was when he was up on the mount. And he said, Father, let this cup pass from me. That little baby was born for that purpose. Are you prepared for that gift? Is there sin in your life that's prohibiting your ministry to God? Are you truly wanting to be a Christian? Or is it just a fad? Is it just something you want to see your kids be? Next week, we're going to talk about healing. Because that's why Jesus was sent, was to heal us from our infirmities due to sin so that we might go to heaven. You're listening to Brother Tim. I'm sitting here with Frady. Don't forget to give Hartman Dentistry a call. Get your smile back. 757-873-3407. Get your smile back with Dr. Vanessa Hartman at 757-873-3407. I'll see you all later, Frady, next week.
I'm looking forward to it. Y'all have a blessed week.